To practice, get on the bus and head to Tulsa for the first round of the WBIT. We're excited about it. You know, the tournament format, part of the growth for women's basketball, the 32-team NCAA sponsor deal, first year of it, new for everybody. It was first time I've ever done a WBIT bubble watch, but I did. It was watching wrong winners, taking the automatic bids away. Got a little sweaty there for a while, but really excited to be in it. It was a fun time. It's a good regional matchup. Tulsa's a team we're familiar with. We actually did a closed door scrimmage with them in the preseason. This is the second year in a row we've done a preseason closed door scrimmage and then end up playing the team in the tournament. We'd done that with Kansas last year. So looking forward to the trip over. We're going to go over today. I coached at Tulsa for a few years, so I lived in that area. I'm going to take the kids to the center of the universe and a couple of the things downtown that are pretty cool. Hope to see Sylvester Stallone walking around shooting an episode of Tulsa King. But we'll get over there today, get settled in, and then tip off tomorrow at 6:30. So we'll talk about that first. I know everybody wants to talk about other things as well. I know you got a job to do and you want to ask questions about our roster and our transfer portal and all that. But if we could do the game first, that way you get, that out of the way, then I'd be happy to answer any questions as long as y'all want to talk about the other stuff.
Yeah, so like Coach said, we'll stick with WBIT questions first, and then we'll go on to other things if you want. Raise your hand, chat at me if you have a question. And with that, we'll start with Ethan.
Yeah, Mike, just how many players will you have available to play on Thursday?
Same roster as we had to start the SEC tournament.
Okay. And I guess.
Yeah, unless something changes between now and 9 in the next hour.
Yeah. And I guess this is the first time we've really talked to you like this since the SEC tournament with a roster that size. Just what did you think of the way that the team, not very many, but still battled most of the way?
I mean, we played a lot of games this year with 8 available, so we've done it a lot. It was Jenna. I thought Jenna played amazing, stepping right in there and not missing a beat. And I think she's a story that we'll tell all summer long to people about staying ready and getting improvement throughout the year and using our games after the game so that, on a short notice, your number's called and you go down and you play really well in a big environment. So, I thought we played as good as we could. Carly Johnson was coming off a concussion. She'll be back. She'll full speed. Cates is, maybe going to get to play maskless. And if not, she's at least a little bit more accustomed to that. So probably this is as healthy as our roster's been since the Missouri game. So different pieces, different, people in uniform, people not in uniform. But as far as the number alone goes, we've played with 8 quite a bit.
Yeah. And then just what do you know about Tulsa? I know y'all played them last year, and then you said you had the scrimmage.
Yeah, watch them a lot. They're obviously a team that plays very fast. They've got 2 great players in Delaney Crawford and Pondexter. Those 2 kids, I know from talking to people in their league, I think a lot of people split their vote for player of the year, in that league. So I think Poindexter got it. So 2 great players. They've stayed relatively healthy throughout the year. They had won 6 in a row, I think, going into their tournament, won their league. They're a league champ, a tri-champ, won their league, won 6 or so in a row going into league and league tournament, and just had one bad day. So, I mean, this is an NCAA caliber team that just didn't play good for one day. So know a lot about them. Watched them play a bunch. I'm a big fan of Angie Nelt. She does a great job over there. That's why we played them in closed door scrimmages, because I knew we would get better as a result of playing them. I know her staff very well. We know a lot of their players. There's, Maddie Cartwright's from my hometown. She's from Greenwood. I know coached her dad in youth basketball leagues. So know a lot of those, know a lot about them, know a lot about their style of play. They're going to be incredibly hard to beat at home. I think they're 13-1 at home, if I'm looking at that number right. So we know we got a big challenge. When I talked to the Tulsa media yesterday, there was a tone like they were the underdogs. And I was like, wait a second, they're the ones hosting. They're the ones hosting. They're the ones that won their league. So Our kids will not go in there expecting anything less than an SEC environment and SEC caliber play.
Courtney?
Yeah, coach, I'm just curious to know, since a lot of people and a lot of fans have been asking, wait, what's the WBIT? How's that different from the WNIT? Can you explain for people just like what you know about it, what's different? Kind of just break it down, because I know there's a lot of people out there going, whoa, wait, what is this?
Yeah, that's a great thing. And thanks for the opportunity to explain it and give people some information rather than just form all these great opinions without information. The WBIT came about as a result of the gender equity study that resulted from the San Antonio situation, when a lot of eyes got drawn to women's basketball and there was this big report. And I think a lot of people were shocked to find out that there was not a second NCAA sponsored event on the women's side. The men's NIT was bought out by the NCAA a long time ago. And so they were sponsoring it and handling it and selecting it. I'll give you a good example. I went to practice yesterday. We had 12 WBIT balls down there. I was like, whoa, this is new, because, before you bought everything, you might get a sticker or something. But anyway, the NCAA invested in women's basketball because of its growing numbers. So to not offset, but to mirror the men's side, they instituted this 32-team NCAA sponsored tournament called the WBIT. Unique selection process. The NCAA committee, when they got done, they picked the first 4 teams that were out of the field, and they put them automatically in the WBIT as hosts and seeds 1, 2, 3, and 4. I haven't really looked at it. I don't even know who they were, but those 4 got automatics. Then anyone who won their league tournament, their league championship, like Tulsa, for example, but did not win their tournament, got another automatic bid. So like there were 7 leagues. Hawaii won their league, lost their tournament. There were 7 of them. Toledo was another one. So here I am watching all these things going, and all of a sudden these at-large bids start dwindling, and then you start looking at where you're at in the net, and you don't have any idea because there's no history of what they're going to select. That's why I was sweating Sunday a little bit. By the end of it, I felt pretty good. Felt like we were kind of right in the middle, which is about where we landed. So the WNIT is one where the university bids. Like, we have to put money into the WNIT's pocket to play in those events. And that's why in the past you've seen some teams turn that down, because it costs to play in that. We would have as well. If we didn't make the WBIT, we would not have participated in the WNIT. We're kind of drawing the line here. That's not that way everywhere, but here we kind of have said, if we're not in the NCAA sponsored events, we probably will not participate. So that's a little, there's not much history because it's brand new. None of us really know what to expect, but so far so good. It's been very professional. They had a little mini show even, where they had a selection mini show. Our kids are excited about it. They get to play in the postseason again, and that means a lot to our kids, so the short answer would be they started another tournament where the men's and women's team will mirror each other with 68 teams and then 32 teams, all sponsored by the NCAA. 100 out of 360, which is still a pretty low percentage comparatively to the other sports. But it's a step in the right direction, and a chance for our kids to continue to play, a chance for us to get some more practice, a chance for me to go explain what the center of the universe is at Tulsa, and take them around Greenwood, Archer, and Pine and talk about the history that went on there, and listen to the Gap Band music while we do it, Dudley.
And then just really quickly before I let you, I turn it over to other people who are asking questions. Do you know if you win this one? Like, I'm sorry, I just
You're on
it. I'm sorry.
You're on it. I love it. So if we were to somehow win and Washington was to win, we would go to Washington. We'd go to Seattle. Okay. Now, if Georgetown beat Washington, there's a little question on, does Georgetown come here, or do we go there, or do we meet in the middle, or that I have not even gotten past that. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but it's a good question to have, and if it's been discussed, it's above my pay grade. I'm packed for Seattle. and I know how to get there.
All right, perfect. That was all I had. I'll turn it over to other
No,
people.
it's fair. That was a very fair question, and I'm sorry I don't know the 100% answer to it. It's
All
fun
right.
to speculate. Let's get the win, and then we'll find out. I'll call you.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll have Kylie put out a release or something. We'll use the internet, let everybody know.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Anthony?
Yeah, Mike, hope you're doing well. Obviously, you mentioned Poindexter and Crawford are kind of their go-to players, but they've got, other players as well, some who have played some inconsistent minutes as well. But, some other players who can hurt you. How do you kind of prepare for a team that's that well-rounded?
Well, we started putting our best foot forward in practice, just telling them exactly what you just mentioned. The second that you get paying a little bit too much attention, if Crawford takes you on two cuts, Zagaios is going to knock down an open three. If Merriam strays too far on the hip, then Perryman's going to be behind there to rebound it, stick it back in, or knock one down too. It's positionless basketball. I mean, she has true position that they will put every player in every spot. You can't scout these guys. Okay. You can't scheme for them. You have to prepare for them. You have to put them in every situation. They're very good at what they do in that Princeton offense. And again, we all know that Princeton was invented by Pete Carrill at Princeton to take advantage of people that are over aggressive. So you have to stay committed. And then I think what she's done that's different than a lot of people, I compare her offense mostly to Chris Mooney at Richmond on the men's side. It's like Princeton on steroids. I mean, it's fast. They shoot as many threes. I think Kylie mentioned yesterday, we make this exact same number of threes per game. Like they shoot a lot of threes. They get to the foul line. They're wide open. So that's why we scrimmaged them, because I thought it would be fun. And I think it was 37-31 or something at the end of the first quarter. So hopefully the defense has improved a little bit since then for us, but I don't think you can really prepare for what they're going to do. You have to prepare for what they're trying to do. You got to stop transition. You got to make sure that every kid is guarding. They can guard every player. Merriam has to be able to guard Gallegos, and she has to be able to guard Perriman. She has to be able to guard Crawford. She has to be able to guard Cartwright. You can't just say, hey, you've got this kid. That's your job. Shut her down. You got to look at them. It's a full team thing, and that's what makes them that's what's, I think, taking them to the top of their league.
Robin?
Good morning, Coach. I hope
Hi,
all is
Robin.
well. So I guess as a follow-up to what Anthony kind of asked as well, what are you hoping to see from like your players like Daniels and Spencer as you go against this team that is really good to shoot and also good at defense?
Yeah, we to have a chance, we need those two kids to go over there, telling our young kids about what it's like to play in a tournament when it's one and done and on the road. And Jenna needs to hear it. Certainly Carly need to hear it. And then Merriam needs to hear it as well. So we need them to be really good voices. Let them know that it's going to be one of those games where we're going to make some mistakes and they're going to hit a three, or we're going to make some mistakes and they're going to beat us on a backdoor cut. It's okay. You just can't let that affect you on the offensive end. And then if you have an error on the offensive end, you can't let that affect you on the defensive end. That's how their big runs start. So I'm really going to put a lot of pressure on Mac and Sam to not allow that to happen out there on the floor. We'll take care of the huddles. They take care of the floor, but they've been amazing in our preparation out here. We can all talk about this. If you watched the men's deal last night with the NIT starting, there's always some teams that don't want to be there. Okay. And it's not hard to tell who's who. It's not hard to tell. And I've been on teams where they really wanted to be there, and I've been on teams that would have rather been on spring break. We're on spring break this weekend, and as a basketball player, you should never hope to be able to go on spring break, but that's, again, not reality world a little bit. So there are teams that don't want to be there. Our team wants to be there. I was really, really looking forward to see how our approach was that first day we stepped back on the floor, specifically with Mac and Sam, because they've been in the NCAA tournament. They know the difference. Jenna doesn't know the difference yet, so we don't have to tell her. And by the way, none of us know what this WBIT looks like. So Mac and Sam were excited. Miriam was excited. They were up here in my office pre-practice, and so I'm looking forward to that. But I'm going to rely on Mac and Sam to set the tone there, and then on the court, like I always have, to be our tone setter on offense and defense.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dudley?
First of all, love the Gap Band reference. 43 years late, or after I first danced to it at the gazebo.
Was it Drop the Bomb on Me or
Yes,
Rubber?
absolutely.
Or
Absolutely.
you know, an interesting fact about the Gap Band, it was named after Greenwood Archer and Pine.
Mhm.
But also, all of their great hits all start with a sound effect.
Mhm.
Go back and listen. It's either a train whistle or the motorcycle revving. They found a niche when they started with the sound effect openers. But
Yeah,
I definitely
love
have
it.
my playlist ready to go. The Gap Band's Essentials.
There you go. Love
I'll
it.
send it to you when we hang up.
Sounds good. I'll since I'm the oldest one, I'll step up, and obviously this is not the season that you wanted to have. The close games, you know, I kept you out of it last year, and you just talked about you know, the kids being excited about it. Just talk to me a little bit about, you know, what the last few days have been like, and you know, I'm sure you're excited to be playing,
Yeah.
but there's, you know, a lot of news there.
Yeah. So I'll take you back to 276 days ago. I had the team at the house as we were starting this, talking about the feeling that we had when we didn't make the NCAA tournament last year, and it stung, and how it was one game, which came down to a few possessions. So we've talked about that. We used a NASA theme. Anybody that's been around, Kylie can show you the patches that we do for each mission patch that we have for every game. That was kind of our thought to stay up with it as we went. Obviously, as the season got toward the end, we realized we weren't going to get the moon. You know, we weren't going to be able to make it to the moon. We weren't going to land there. We weren't going to get in the NCAA tournament. This year was for different reasons than last year. So there's growth in there. And there were some things we could have controlled, but this year there were a lot of things we couldn't have had control over. So I think our team obviously disappointed not to be back in the NCAA tournament, but live in reality world enough to realize, and again, with the historical history of our specific sport at our specific university, that going to the WBIT is not, we're not going to let anybody try to frown upon that. It's too big of a deal. The fact that, you know, again, there's only 3 teams in the SEC who have been to 6 straight postseasons. And I know people get sick of me here and say, yeah, well, you've not won an NCAA tournament game. I'll fight you over that one too, if anybody wants to. But, like, I'm not going to let these kids get their head down on it. And I don't think that's the kids we have. They understand that you only are going to fail if you quit and you stop trying. And this team never did that. We went to Greenville with a plan, and they were in it. And to see them come together and you know where we're at now in that locker room, it's small, but it's together. It's a fun place to finish the year. So we'll keep telling stories. Not everybody wants to listen to them. That's fine. This group will keep telling them to each other, and we'll keep each other honest about it. But we do have the luxury of perspective. And I'm going to keep telling those kids that. And then we'll come back fighting. We'll have a new plan. And in fact, we've already started it for next year, so that we'll try to be in the NCAA tournament again next year.
Growth of the women's game has been great, but it also brings along increased awareness, I guess, of situations. Talk about how you've been dealing with that in the social media era.
Well, you embrace it. I mean, you have to. That means there's high demand. I mean, I'm glad that we have people that demand a great product and demand us to, you know, I've said it before. If we're going to demand equal treatment, we need to demand equal treatment. And that's fine. I try to keep our kids grounded in the point of, if it's a serious person giving you serious criticism, listen to it. If it's somebody that has obviously shown their hand and is just trying to stir it up, or what the kids told me, get clicks or whatever, you know, I encourage them to look at it if they can handle it. I encourage them to turn it off if they can't, you know, and it's hard to do because it's peripheral. I can turn it off as much as I want, but I still have this one friend that'll send me screenshots. I'm like, dude, I'm not looking at that until you send it to me, you know? So I personally, you know, I have to take it, it's serious. I get it. I listen to it. I'm not telling you it doesn't hurt sometimes when people send it. It does, but it motivates me. And, you know, I can tell pretty quickly who really has some information and has developed an opinion based on fact. I got no problem with that. no problem with that. We should be held to a really high standard here. But I do not let it deter from my responsibilities to be their head coach on a day-to-day basis. Every kid handles it a little bit different. You know, Sam's going to stick her nose in there and fight a little bit more. You know why? Because that's what she does on the court. Miriam's going to stand back a little bit and go, Coach, are you okay? You know, I just want to check on you and handle it that way. And I need both. So I know when you sign up, I knew when I took this job. I'm a Razorback fan. I've been a Razorback fan for 55 years, Dudley, just like you have, plus a few. I think you got me by a year or two. But I get it, and it's okay. I embrace our passionate fans that demand a lot out of their sport. They want to be proud, and we're here to make them proud. So I just try to keep the facts out there, and if everybody's reporting on facts, I got no issue with anything anybody says. One last question for me. Were you surprised at Talia and Sailor, or did you feel like that was coming? No, Talia's situation is, it's been in the works for a while, and it's something that, again, just like I've said before, it's nothing that anybody on the planet could control. So I hate it. I hate the situation, but it's the best for her and her family. When she came up here, got a great hug on the way out the door. Wish her nothing but the best, and just keep her and her family in our thoughts wherever she lands. Hopefully it's not someplace we have to play against, but Sailors was a little different. They're all different. That one was more toward the end of the year, starting to come down, and a buildup of things. So they're all really different. They're all handled differently. Some you have a lot of communication with, some you don't have any communication with. Some you feel like you have answers for, others you're blindsided by, and you'd be just like everybody else and start to speculate. So I would never share intimate details about any of my players or that. When it comes to that, those are all things that we dealt with as a team, but they're all different. The fact that the portal opens on a day right after the selection deal, that's something that we're working through as an organization. It's just bad timing. It's a tough time for that to happen. I even had people call me yesterday and say, well, hey, talk to me about Jersey. What kind of year did she have? I said, well, do you not have the internet? I mean, do you not look up stats and realize that this happened in November? Oh, no, I didn't realize that. So you might want to tell her that when you talk to her, that you didn't even realize she didn't play that, So the timing of it is so abrupt. It's like, for us, we know, but then that day hits, and it's just, it's a wealth of information for everybody to kind of sort through and deal with. It made for a really long day because we were working both sides of the portal, obviously. We were looking at people going in, we were looking at people coming out. So somebody said it down the hall, maybe in Toddy, the portal giveth and it taketh away. That's going to be never so more true. For us, it's a little bit new, Dudley, because, I chose not to use it last year. I chose to trust the kids that we had coming back. I chose to trust that, they were going to be the ones that wanted to be developed and were going to be with us. We didn't need it last year. We're obviously going to need it this year. So we've got a plan for it. We've had a plan for it. We hatched it, mid-November, right when it became pretty evident that it was going to be when the two-time transfer rule came out. When that rule changed, that meant everybody was a possibility to transfer again. Sailor probably would have had to have thought a second time about doing it had that rule not changed, because she would have had to have set out a year someplace. But when that changed, it made your whole board. How many ever you had on, somebody said, hey, coach, how many scholarships you have for next year? I said 15, because you don't know anymore. And that's, if we want to continue to be on the bubble or in the conversation for an NCAA tournament bid, we've got to effectively utilize it. We didn't need to do it last year. This year, I think we're going to need to. It'd be easy to point fingers, and believe me, I've looked in the mirror very hard about that. Maybe I should have gone into the portal for a player or two last year. Maybe I should have. I don't know. I think we can debate that. But this year, there's going to be no debating it. We're going into the portal, as you, Kylie, really, we already have. So that's going to be something new for us. And I'm excited about it. I love the transfer portal. I think it's a valuable tool. I think it's important. I'm glad we have it, but we're all dealing with just the newness of it still. So I like roller coasters and not merry-go-rounds. And this is certainly going to be a roller coaster for the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
Appreciate it, and sorry for not monopolizing the questions, everybody.
It's okay. We don't watch film for another 35 minutes.
Daniel?
Coach, you'll be shocked to know that I'm completely lost on the music conversation, but that's neither here nor there.
I will also send you a Gap Band playlist and you can thank me later.
Okay, sounds good. You actually kind of touched on my question. I guess, how are you kind of handling setting up for next year and dealing with the portal, given that it's also new and still having potentially, multiple games to prepare for down the road?
Yeah, it's something that when the dates were given to us, we were like, wait a second, you're telling me that, I mean, there's some teams in the NCAA tournament who are getting kids going into the portal. Like, the date is just baffling to me, but we're all having to deal with it on the same. Here's what we're doing. I'm working half my day on my current team and half the day on my future team. That's just the best way to put it. I tell you, it's half and half right now. We know a lot about our current team. We don't have to practice as long at the end of the year as we do, but you still have to manage them and talking to them. Like, obviously I talked to Miriam and Sam and some of the other returners before we ever before we talked about Izzy coming in. It's official, isn't it, Kylie? I can say her name out loud. Okay. So I think you have to work half your day and half your day, but you also have to incorporate everybody. So I think it's a valuable life lesson for our kids. Another one that we get to teach. Sometimes you can't just silo yourself and work on one project at a time. Courtney, I can't imagine how many projects you have going on the side. I know Ethan's covering softball and everybody's got different things you're doing. It'd be nice if you could just silo yourself and work on one thing. So it's helped me grow. I've got Lacey's got a room full of boards and Pauline's got a room full of boards, and we trade boards out and we talk and meet in different offices and we kind of switch gears. I like to meet in different places on different topics, but it's just kind of spread our day out a little bit more. I'm learning a lot about we are kind of using Coach Muss's philosophy of look at every name that goes in the portal. There's some names that go in the portal and I don't recognize the name, and I look up and they averaged 18 and 15 at Lafayette or somewhere. And that's not a real kid, so y'all don't have to worry about me tampering, but something like that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I follow basketball as much as anybody, but there's some kids that had great years in some smaller leagues. Anybody over 6'4", they get a star, and we start betting them. Data mining. Daniel, we ought to bring somebody that doesn't know who the Gap Band is to help us probably data mine some information on these kids. But it's a lot of research. It's a lot of making phone calls, seeing if we know common people, talking to coaches in their league. If y'all can hear me, I'm hoarse. And we hadn't played a game in how long? It's because I've been on the phone longer, probably longer when I started trying to date JC. I mean, I don't ever talk on the phone anymore. I text, but I've been on the phone with kids all over the country. I've been on the phone with coaches. There's back in the day, kid usually had one person you needed to call. That doesn't exist anymore. If the kid's good, there's probably 6 or 7 kids you got to call about that one kid. Then you got to hear the same stories about them growing up and being there. There's 6 different people that are going to help them make a decision on where they're going next. So my staff sounds just like me, but we're also, like I said, about half the time we're doing that and half the time we're getting ready for Tulsa.
I guess you said that, you're involved with other coaches and stuff like that, maybe more than your normal, women's basketball coach. What's kind of been the conversation amongst you guys about the current schedule?
You talking about coaches in NCAA basketball in general?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe what he's mentioned is I do sit on the WBCA board of directors, and I'm also on their stewardship committee. And then I'm also the chairman of the awards committee, which selects the Wade Trophy, the All-American committee, the coach of the year, the defense, all those. So you can imagine the people that are calling me to push their players, so I'll listen to them, but then I always will get something out of it for me. I'll ask them, Daniel, about, hey, how's the portal going for you? How are you managing the dual needs, the dual responsibilities? And I would tell you, it's pretty much across the board, universally, everybody's saying, It's the hardest time that they've ever been in as a coach. It's the hardest time. The Athletic did an article this morning. I don't know if y'all saw it. It was a blind anonymous survey. I don't know if blind anonymous is a real thing, but it was an anonymous survey. And one of the questions was like, what percentage of you is in and out? And it was like 56-44 or something. It was crazy. So I wouldn't say it's universal, and especially people speaking out loud. I think there's some very young people in our profession that are all for it. And they're like, I'm full of energy. I can handle this. And it's us older people that have seen it both ways that are going, well, I don't know. It's, more like Nick Saban. There's a lot of coaches that feel like Nick Saban. And then there's a lot of coaches that feel like Lane Kiffin, like bring it on. And I don't want any part of this. So I think we've got really split, but I do think it's tipped toward this is harder than it's ever been. It's different than what it was 3 or 4 years ago. A lot of the things I loved about being a college coach are not present anymore. But there's some new things. Like I do kind of like this. I do kind of love this GM role. I don't know if I'm any good at it yet because nobody does because we've not been doing that. But you got to think like I've read 3 books about general managers, and I don't know, there's some stuff that's pretty cool. But it's not what I signed up for. But it's also not something I'm going to be able to change. So I can't spend any time really bemoaning the process. I got an adapt or die type deal from Moneyball. There's my Moneyball reference, Dudley. But I think it's kind of fun. I'm kind of 50. I'm kind of in the middle there. I probably wouldn't have answered that question. I don't have enough information to go on yet.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Daniel. Courtney?
I think we're done with basketball. If y'all want to talk about Portland, we're kind of wandering into that area. So
Not yet. You mentioned.
Okay, well, go ahead. I'm there. I'm ready.
You mentioned Izzy and we talked about the portal taketh, but let's talk about the portal giveth. Get on that. I want you to explain the text you sent to her and what happened there. How did you? Because people were like, wait, she just entered the portal. They jumped on her. I know other coaches are like, whoa, that was really quick. Can you explain the text and how that all happened with getting her?
So when Izzy was coming out of high school, she and I have talked about this ad nauseum, and she's already told me it's okay to talk about it, and she will too when it comes time for y'all to talk to her. When she was coming out of high school, I had a lot of guards on my roster. I had a lot of guards. She had some family members that were relentless in communicating with me about how stupid I was for not looking at their kinfolk or their friend or whatever. And I reply, I'm jovial when I can be. And I knew it. I said, look, I think she's a great player. We just don't have that need. I think she's a great player. I think she really wants to be a Razorback. And I think I said something to somebody. She says that, but I've never even met her. She's never come to a game. She's never come to one of our camps. And I thought, well, maybe that means she doesn't want to be a Razorback. I didn't know. That was my mistake. I devalued how much she wanted to be a Razorback. And that's a mistake. And that's why I sent it to her. Because Dudley, was it Coach Broyles or was he the one that talked about winning with Arkansas kids? I know Coach Nutt said it as well, but
Yes.
I probably lost a little side of that. Got caught up in the rankings or the stars or the, whatever it was. And then she went to Missouri and played great against us. And I'm like, oh, well, and everybody goes, see, I told you to go. She had a huge, and again, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to make my mom and my papa would beat me around if I made, a mistake a third time. So obviously after she hung 27 on us, and Matt comes in the locker room going, Coach, she's really hard to guard now. I just think it's a testament to her and her family. Like I said, that they never stopped working. They never stopped having their love for the Razorbacks. So when I saw her name go in there, that's the text I sent her, and she responded immediately. And when I said, hey, let's try to get you up here sometime this week, it was like, well, how about today? I mean, it's like, okay, then I know exactly where we're at with this whole thing. And it was, that's the way it's going to work sometimes. It doesn't work that way every time. But I mean, I could have dug my heels in and said, I was right all along, and she just had a great game with us. I think that would have been naive thinking. I think it would have been stubborn. I think it would have been irresponsible on my part. So I thought it got us off to a good start conversation as well. And we've had a lot of fun with it. Her parents are great. We're really excited about how excited she is. It's been a while since, even nowadays, a lot of kids, when they commit, they're like, oh, I'm so relieved this is over. It's been so stressful. I'll let her tell you what her response to my text was I told Kylie she'll get to write a signing story from her perspective. Kind of those this was my perspective. Let's hear it from hers. But her reply to me was pretty classic. I'll tell you that.
I love it. Thanks, Coach. That's all I have.
You got it.
Anthony?
Yeah, so I've got one basketball question and one portal question. But you mentioned the closed doors scrimmage you had against Tulsa, and obviously how you play a similar style with the threes. I guess how much have you looked back at that, and how much do you think that kind of helps in preparation for this?
Well, it probably helps us a little bit because they have the same team, and they're doing the same thing. Probably doesn't help them as much because we have a different team than there was that day. I mean, Jersey played in that game. I mean, that was before that happened. So we have a different team. We've had to go through some iterations of ourselves throughout the year. We've not been able to be, and I think that's why we've been inconsistent a little bit, because I've changed some things offensively as a result of our personnel's change. And so I think it'll help us a lot because they have the same team, virtually the same team, and they don't change. They pretty much do what they do. They're just really damn good at it and don't care if you know what's coming. So hopefully it helps us a little bit more than it helps them. Because again, I don't know how much film they've had on Jenna, except for last game. I think she went 3 for 5. That's going to help them a little bit, but there's not a lot of film out there. There's certainly not film on what we've been working on the last 3 or 4 days. So I'm kind of excited that last year the closed door scrimmage for us with Kansas probably helped them more than it helped us. So hopefully we'll be able to flip that tide a little bit. But closed door scrimmages are great. You learn a lot about your team for the moment and for the year. I think it's crazy ironic how many times we've actually played in the postseason a team that we played in a game that didn't count. So hopefully it helps us more than it helps them, but it'll help us a lot.
And then talking about the portal, obviously Talia and Sailor entering, does that change your offseason plans at all, kind of looking ahead to next year? Or how does that kind of, I guess, change that kind of outlook?
Yeah, I mean, it changes our roster. I mean, I had it on the board. Believe me, I had all 15 names across the board as if something happened to all of them. So we have a plan to put in, so we'll have to operate that plan. Had they stayed, I probably wouldn't look for a 4-player like Sailor. Now we need to find somebody not only that can play, but can come in and play a lot, or we shift that responsibility to a growing, emerging Miriam Dowda and find somebody to fit a different role there. It's going to force me to take a look at our style of play, Anthony. There's no question. But I won't change all those until I know our pieces. I will tell you all this. Another mistake I made was I just kind of started collecting talent. And I didn't really spend a lot of time to see if they fit together. Really good pieces. Traditionally, I've been a pretty good puzzle maker, fitting them together. That was a little harder this year. So we are spending a lot more time to make sure that these pieces fit together rather than just amass talent. I fell for that's the way this game is headed. You just got to get as many talented kids as you can. You'll figure it out. There's some evidence out there in both men's and women's basketball that might not be the proper way to look at it. So I will study a lot of people's failures, and I'll study more failures than I will successes, because I think that's where you can have your most growth and your most learning. So I'll look at what we did. I'll look at what other teams and other programs have done that are similar to us in similar situations. I'll look to see if there are things that we were doing that we can do better, if there are things we were doing that we need to stop doing, or things that we need to institute that we've never done before. When you have moments that really are painful, you're willing to change a little bit. So I think I'm going to be open to more change than I have in the past, starting year 8. So it's going to be a reflective off season, but one that won't last very long. We don't have much time to reflect. So I think that's why we've been working on the plan and see which plan. Got 4 or 5 options. Got to figure out which one fits best. But yeah, it changes. It does. I mean, it changes. It'll change who we look at. I'm going to the junior college national tournament for the first time in 12 years. I haven't been to the JUCO national tournament in 12 years. But this year there's some players that, because of our needs and because of their availability and their situation, kind of makes some sense. So I'll be in Casper, Wyoming at the Junior College National Tournament for the first time, and said last time I went, it was in Salina. So it's been a while, but we'll do that. That's a change. But it's kind of exciting too, some new stuff.
All right, we'll wrap up with Robin.
So I don't have a basketball question. It's a music question.
Let's
Since you
go. I'm all for
since you-
that. And
Yes,
I
you
can stay a
mentioned-
little while longer, Kylie. If everybody's out of questions, that's fine. But I got 19 minutes. Kylie always it's like Kylie's got lunch or something sometimes, but I will answer any question. We don't have to go. Robin.
Yes. So what is your favorite Gap Band song? Mine is Early in the Morning. So I need
Nice.
Mhm.
Mine's Party Train. I went through a little breakdancing phase. Yeah. And me and my crew had a little deal with a Party Train. I will not recreate it without Barry and Bobo beside me, because they were the talent, not me.
Okay, that was my next question, is if we could see you do it.
No chance. Hey, I'll tell you what, we win the WBIT, I will recreate, not in Hinkle Fieldhouse, because that would be a sacrilege. Once we get back to Bud Walton Arena, I will try to contact my crew from 1985, and I will try to find a pair of parachute pants, because I can't fit in the ones I still have. And I'll do my best to recreate our Party Train breakdown.
Okay, we're gonna hold you to it.
I
figured it
hope
was
I
going
have
to
to.
be Beep a Freak.
What's that?
I figured it was going to be Beep a Freak. That's my.
No, we had that. We practiced to it, but we settled on I can close my eyes and see us practicing out in the parking lot. It was at a Walmart in Fort Smith. It's a breakdance contest, and we were practicing out in the parking lot, of course, on cardboard. And then we went in, and they cleared some aisles back, and there was a showdown in the Rogers Avenue Walmart in 1985. And so it wasn't pretty on my part, but I'll try it.
Any music questions? Any more music questions?
Talk about that. I'll
Coach,
cancel practice for that.
Can we get the playlist?
Yeah. I'll if I send it, I have everybody's email. I'm not sure I got everybody's. Kylie, do you have everybody's cell?
Most of everyone on here, yeah.
If y'all want the Gap Band playlist that I will be listening to on the way to Tulsa, I will send it to Kylie when we get on the bus.
Coach,
Early in the morning's deep cut. Robin, whoever raised you, I give props to. They taught you well, because
My mama raised me right. She raised me right. I will say.
give your mama a hug and a kiss from me, because where are you from? You got
I'm originally from Dallas, but my dad is from Oklahoma, and I went to school at Oklahoma State. So I know you dropped a bomb on me very well from our baseball team.
So yeah, exactly. So have you gone to Tulsa to tour Greenwood Archer and Pride, and where all the history happened?
No, I haven't yet. I want to, though.
You should go. It's a short drive for you. It's powerful. It's powerful. And you find out their story. They talk a little bit about their story growing up in the church, performing, together, and how it morphed into who they became. And they're kind of a lot of people have a misconception about them as a band. They're fascinated. They're fascinated to me. So
Word.
Dudley, just imagine if we get to go to Seattle next, and we can talk about all the great music stuff that happened in Sub Pop. We'll need an hour, Kylie. Kylie, we'll need an hour if we go to Seattle to talk about the music scene in Seattle.
That's fine by me as a Seattle native. So,
guys, thanks. If y'all need any follow-ups, Kylie hates it when I do it, but y'all can call me, reach out to me, text me, whatever. If you got follow-ups to anything, I'm always here.
thanks
Coach.
everyone.
All right. Thanks, y'all.